They say the universe has its own mysterious way of rearranging our lives, of removing people we thought would be permanent fixtures in our story. At first, it feels cruel, like someone ripped out a chapter you weren't ready to end. But sometimes, the very people we think we cannot live without are the ones the universe gently, or violently, removes to protect our soul's journey. I learned this the hard way. It all began with Aram. He wasn't just a friend, he was the kind of person you believe will be there forever, like the sun in the morning and the moon at night. We met during a time when my life felt like a scattered puzzle, pieces everywhere, and no clear picture of what it was supposed to be. And then he came along, picking up my broken parts as if he knew exactly where each piece belonged. In the beginning, I thought this was destiny, that the universe had finally given me someone who would understand my silences as much as my words. For months, our friendship was like an anchor in a storm. We talked about everything: dreams, fears, childhood memories, and the kind of life we wanted but didn't yet have. He'd listen when I ranted about my job, and I'd sit quietly when his voice cracked telling me about the father he lost too soon. There was an unspoken promise between us that we'd never let go, no matter what happened. But promises, they're fragile things. The shift didn't happen overnight. It began with small silences. Texts that used to be replied to within minutes started taking hours, then days. Plans we made were postponed until they were simply forgotten. I told myself he was busy, that life was just pulling us in different directions. But deep down, I could feel the distance stretching, like an elastic band pulled too far. You start to wonder, is it me? Did I say something? Did I do something? That's the thing about fading connections, they leave you searching for a reason, even when none is given. I remember the exact moment I realized he was gone, not physically, but in every other way that mattered. We were at a small cafe we used to love. I was talking about something that had been weighing on my heart, and he was scrolling through his phone. No eye contact. No smile. Just distracted nods. I stopped mid-sentence and waited for him to notice, but he didn't. That was when I knew, the person I had once known had drifted away, and the universe was quietly closing the chapter. At first, I fought it. I tried to hold on. I messaged more, called more, made excuses to see him. But every effort was met with less enthusiasm, like my presence had become an obligation. It hurt, God, it hurt more than I can explain, because you don't just lose the person, you lose the version of yourself that existed with them. But no matter how much I resisted, the universe was relentless in its silence. Looking back now, I see the signs I ignored. The late-night conversations that became rare. The way he stopped sharing his life with me. The subtle shift in tone when we spoke. But when you love someone's presence in your life, whether as a friend, a partner, or something in between, you cling to what's left, even when the universe is trying to pry your fingers open. One evening, I stumbled upon an old picture of us. We were laughing, arms around each other, unaware of how temporary that moment would be. My chest tightened, and I cried, not just because I missed him, but because I missed the person I was when I was with him. And in that moment of grief, I whispered into the darkness, "Why, universe? Why take him away?" The answer didn't come immediately. The universe rarely gives explanations in the moment. Instead, it removes, it shifts, it rearranges. And then, slowly, it reveals why. But at that time, all I could feel was loss, and the silence where his voice used to be. That night, I decided to stop chasing. I didn't message him. I didn't call. I let the silence be. And strangely, that silence taught me something. Sometimes, the universe removes people not to hurt us, but to make room for something, or someone, else. I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of the lesson. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Life has a way of moving forward, even when you feel stuck in the past. I kept expecting that one day Aram would call, or text, or send some sign that he missed me too. But that day never came. The truth is, people rarely circle back the way we imagine they will. In the early days, I blamed myself. I replayed every conversation, every moment, wondering if I had said something wrong, if I had been too much or not enough. That's the dangerous thing about losing someone without an explanation. You turn into your own worst critic, finding flaws where there may be none. I almost let that self-blame consume me. But slowly, something shifted. I started noticing how different my life felt without him. Not just emptier, but lighter. I didn't realize how much of my energy I had been pouring into holding onto something that had already slipped away. Without even noticing, I had stopped waiting for my phone to light up with his name. I had stopped mentally calculating the gaps between his replies. The space he left behind was beginning to heal, and in that space, I was rediscovering myself. One quiet morning, I went for a walk in the park, the same park where Aram and I used to sit for hours. The air was crisp, the kind that fills your lungs with a sharp reminder that you are alive. I watched the leaves fall, one by one, and for the first time, I understood, not all loss is meant to be mourned forever. Some loss is a release. Just as trees let go of their leaves to survive the winter, the universe sometimes makes us let go of people to survive the seasons of our soul. A few months later, I heard from a mutual friend that Aram had moved to another city for work. He hadn't told me, and strangely, that didn't sting the way I thought it would. Instead, I felt a quiet acceptance. His journey was leading him somewhere mine wasn't meant to follow. We had shared a chapter, but it wasn't the whole book. Then, something unexpected happened. I met someone new, not in a romantic way, but in the way the universe sends you exactly who you need, exactly when you need them. Her name was Sana. She was full of warmth, the kind of person who could make a stranger feel like an old friend. We met by chance, striking up a conversation at a bookstore, and before I knew it, we were talking for hours over coffee. There was no heavy history between us, no unspoken wounds, just an effortless connection. Through her, I realized something important. Sometimes the universe removes people to make room for others who will love you in ways you didn't even know you needed. Sana didn't replace Aram, she brought something entirely different, a lightness, a kindness, a reminder that not every connection has to be a struggle to keep. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat on my balcony, sipping tea, and thought about everything I had been through. Losing Aram had felt like the end of the world, but now I could see it for what it was, a realignment. The universe had not been punishing me, it had been protecting me. Protecting me from clinging to someone who no longer saw me the way I saw them, from shrinking myself to fit into someone else's fading space. I won't lie, there are still days I think about him. There are still moments when an old song or a familiar place stirs up the ache of what used to be. But now, instead of longing, I feel gratitude. Gratitude for the laughter we shared, for the lessons I learned, and even for the pain that taught me to let go. Because here's the truth. The universe doesn't remove people to leave you empty. It removes them to make room for the next chapter, for the growth you can't see yet, for the love you haven't met yet, even if that love is simply the one you find within yourself. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all, that every ending is just a beginning in disguise. That sometimes, losing someone is the very thing that saves you. And when you finally see it that way, you stop asking, why, and start whispering, thank you.